The frozen passenger. Low voice, campfire crackle in the background. You ever give someone a ride you shouldn't have? I'm not talking about the sketchy kind of stranger, hitchhiker with a wild look and a garbage bag for luggage. No, I mean the kind that looks too normal. The kind your gut whispers about, but your brain ignores. That was me 2 winters ago, driving home from a late shift at the paper mill in Mill Haven. Tiny Maine town, the kind where the gas station coffee's burnt and everyone knows everyone's sins. Snow was coming down like feathers from a torn pillow. The world was quiet. That's when I saw him, standing on the roadside under the busted streetlight. No coat, no hat, just waiting. And here's the strange thing, something about him felt out of focus, like the air around him was colder than the rest of the night. I slowed down. Maybe it was guilt, or that damn small town decency that keeps you from minding your own business. Either way, I pulled over. He climbed in without a word, just nodded. His clothes were neat, old-fashioned neat, like a salesman from the 50s, but his skin had that waxy tint like he hadn't seen daylight in a long while. Headed north? He finally asked. Voice low, polite. Yeah, I said. Mill Haven. He smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. We drove in silence for miles, the radio humming static. But every few minutes, I felt something, like the temperature dipped a degree every time he breathed. My windshield started fogging from the inside, though the heater was running full blast. And in the rearview mirror, sometimes I couldn't see him at all. That was the night everything changed. The night I learned that some passengers never truly leave the road behind. He slid into the passenger seat without a word. Didn't even ask where I was headed, just said east. His voice sounded wrong, like a tape slowing down. The heater blasted, but I swear the air around him stayed cold. My windshield fogged everywhere except in front of him. Then he started talking, soft, steady, like a man remembering a dream. He said my name first, my full name. Then he said the name of the road I took every night home from the mill, Route 17, past the old grain silos. He even mentioned the dent in the fender from where I hit a deer last spring. I laughed it off, told him Mill Haven was a small place, folks talk. He smiled again, thin, gray lips stretching too long. Then he said my wife's name. The air went still. Her name felt like a ghost hand sliding across my chest. I hadn't heard anyone say it in 2 years, not since the night she drove off that same stretch of highway in the storm. How do you know her? I asked. My voice cracked like old wood. He turned his head slowly, eyes glinting under the dash light, pale, wet eyes that didn't seem to belong to anyone alive. She told me, he said you'd be coming this way. The tires hissed against the snow. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. I glanced in the side mirror just to steady myself, and that's when I saw it. The seat beside me, in the reflection, was empty. But when I looked back, he was there, sitting, smiling, steam rising faintly from his coat like frost melting in reverse. I pressed the gas, needed to see lights, a sign, anything to tether me to something real. But the storm had swallowed the road whole. No tracks behind us, no power lines above, just a vast, white nowhere. He started humming then. A tune low and slow, Take It to the Limit. And that's when it hit me. His breath wasn't fogging the glass. Mine was. Whatever was sitting in my truck wasn't a man anymore, and I wasn't sure the road ahead led anywhere living. I slammed the brakes. The truck screamed, fishtailed, headlights cutting mad halos through the snow. For a moment, the world was all motion and light and panic. Then, impact. The back end snapped sideways and the engine died with a choking groan. Silence. Only the slow tick of the cooling engine, the whisper of snow hissing against the windshield. My hands were welded to the steering wheel, knuckles white. When I finally turned to him, really turned, he was facing me fully now. The soft civility was gone. His skin seemed to ripple, pale light pushing through like something trapped underneath. His eyes weren't eyes anymore. They were two holes of midnight, slick and endless, reflecting nothing. You shouldn't have left her in the lake, he said. My breath snagged in my throat. The words hung there, heavy, poisonous, because no one knew about that night. Not the cops who found the wreck, not the friends who sent casseroles and condolences, not me, not the part of me that remembered things clearly. But then the flashbacks came, staggered, broken, real. The scream, the black ice, the truck rolling once, twice, her face in the mirror, white with fear, the water swallowing everything. Her hand reaching for mine, bubbles curling from her lips as I let go, because I thought I could save myself. And the thing beside me, he smiled, and it all snapped into focus. This wasn't the ride home. This was the night. The road was looping, the same stretch of Route 17, the same blizzard that never ended. The man wasn't a hitchhiker. He was the trooper who pulled my body from the frozen cab. I remembered now, his face lit by the flares, shouting orders through the snow. The last person I saw before everything went dark. My voice broke. "I'm dead, aren't I?" He nodded once. "Been driving a long time, haven't you?" The snow outside had stopped. No wind, no sound. Just stillness, pure and wide and waiting. He opened the door, motioned toward the white beyond. Time to finish the drive. I looked out and saw her standing on the ice, smiling, hand outstretched. The choice wasn't really a choice. I let go of the wheel. The world outside began to unravel, piece by piece. Snowflakes hung motionless in the air, caught in some invisible web of time. The dashboard lights dimmed to a dying heartbeat glow. The radio murmured static that sounded like whispering, voices caught between stations, between worlds. He looked at me one last time, that strange, not quite human calm in his face. And I understood then. This drive wasn't about going home. It was about waking up, about remembering what really happened beneath all that ice and guilt and silence. He opened the passenger door, and the cold poured in like a living thing, clean, sharp, endless. It didn't sting this time. It felt right, familiar. I turned, half expecting him to vanish like smoke, but he was already gone. No footprints in the snow, no sound, no trace of breath, just the open road, silver and still beneath a frozen sky. And then I looked in the rearview mirror. The seat beside me, empty, but in the reflection, the driver wasn't moving. My body still gripping the wheel, skin pale as the frost creeping up the windows, eyes wide, unblinking, staring into nothing. The truth settled slow and heavy. I hadn't been the one driving all these nights. I'd been riding along, replaying a memory that refused to die. Outside, the world began to thaw. The snow resumed its fall, softer now, almost gentle. I stepped out into it, boots sinking without sound. Somewhere in the distance, I heard water, a faint trickle beneath the ice. The lake, our lake. And there she was, standing by the shore, wrapped in light like morning fog, her face calm, forgiving. I wanted to speak, to apologize, but no words came. She just nodded once, a small, sad smile on her lips. Then she turned toward the water and I followed. Behind me, my old truck sat still, headlights dimming under the snow. Somewhere, miles away, or maybe years, a tow crew would find it come spring, a frozen man still sitting behind the wheel. But I wasn't there anymore. I was walking beside her, hand in hand, toward the quiet horizon where the lake met the sky, and the road finally ended. They say winter never really leaves Millhaven. Sure, the calendar flips and the ice melts, but when the sun goes down and the wind slides in off the lake, you can still feel that old chill, that otherworldly cold that doesn't belong to weather at all. Every year, around the same time, people start talking again. A truck, they say, parked halfway down Route 6. Headlights on, motor humming low, exhaust coiling in the dark like ghost breath. Some drivers swear they see movement in the cab, two figures sitting side by side. Others claim there's only one. But everyone agrees on one thing. If you pass that spot, your radio goes dead. The heater falters. And for a split second, the world feels too quiet, too aware of you. They tell stories, how some locals tried to stop, to help. How one man opened the door and found frost crawling up his arms before he could even blink. Another said he saw his own reflection sitting in the driver's seat. Most just speed up and keep their eyes straight ahead. And me, I don't argue. I just smile, sip my coffee, and glance toward the window when the wind hits just right. Because I know the truth. I know the hum of that engine isn't a ghost story. It's a heartbeat, a promise. Out there, somewhere past the edge of sight, a man and a woman sit together in the quiet. Finally home, finally still. The snow falls softly, covering the road, the lake, the past. And if you listen close enough through the static and the dark, you might just hear a tune humming low and steady. Take it to the limit, one more time. So before you go, let me ask you something. You ever give someone a ride you shouldn't have? Music fades, static crackles, then silence. If you enjoyed tonight's story, don't forget to like this video. It really helps the channel grow and keeps these stories reaching new listeners. Subscribe for daily chills and haunting tales. and share this one with someone who loves a good scare. Thank you for watching and listening. There's another story waiting for you right there on your screen, and I'll see you back here tomorrow if the road doesn't take you first. The dinner guest. You ever have someone knock on your door right at dinner time, but you weren't expecting anyone? That's how it started for me. It was a Tuesday. Raining, of course, the kind of cold drizzle that sticks to your bones and makes the house feel smaller than it should. I was setting the table, nothing fancy, just soup and bread, when I heard it. 3 slow knocks. Now, I live alone. My wife passed 2 winters ago, and I don't get visitors anymore. Not since the accident. I froze. Not because of the knocking, but because I swore I heard someone whisper my name before it came. The kind of whisper that feels like it's coming from inside the walls. The house sat on the edge of town, halfway forgotten by the living, fully claimed by the wind. I'd grown used to the loneliness, the hum of the fridge keeping company with the ghosts of old memories. Every creak and sigh of the floorboards had its rhythm, its logic, until that night. When I opened the door, there was a man standing there, tall, soaked, hat dripping rainwater onto the porch. He smiled, but his eyes didn't. "Evening," he said. "Mind if I come in? Looks like a storm's about to get worse." The strange thing was, he looked familiar, like someone I'd seen before in a dream, or maybe in the corner of a photograph long forgotten. I hesitated, my hand still on the knob, heart thudding like a clock wound too tight. I told myself it was just decency, just human kindness. But even as I stepped aside to let him in, something deep in my chest whispered, "Don't." Because kindness has teeth sometimes, and that night it was hungry. I looked down and there it was, 3 plates, 3 spoons, 3 glasses filled with water that rippled ever so slightly as though something had brushed past the table. The man smiled again, and I swear I saw his reflection tremble in the window, like it wasn't entirely his. "I told her I'd come," he said softly. "I told her I'd remind you." My mouth went dry. "Remind me of what?" He didn't answer. He just walked to the chair where my wife used to sit and ran his fingers along the backrest, slow and reverent, like a priest blessing an altar. Then he pulled out the chair, the wood groaned, and gestured for me to sit opposite him. "I think we should start before the food gets cold," he said. Something inside me buckled. Maybe it was fear, or maybe it was the gnawing familiarity in his tone. I sat down, hands trembling, eyes darting between him and the 3rd empty chair. The soup bubbled in the pot, its surface shivering as thunder crawled across the sky. He began to talk, not to me, but to the empty space beside him, asking questions, pausing as if waiting for someone to reply. And each time the candle flickered, answering. "You see, she's still here." That's when I noticed the steam from the soup drifting toward the empty chair, curling, shaping itself like fingers reaching across the table. I told myself it was just the storm playing tricks, but deep down I felt it. The same chill that used to wake me at night after she died, that feeling of presence. Then he leaned forward, voice low and certain. "You made her a promise," he said, "and you broke it." The rain outside was a frenzy now, slashing at the windows like it wanted in. The lights flickered, and for the first time I saw it clearly, that photo he still held. Only now there were 4 people in it. The man standing behind me. The soup boiled over again, and beneath the hiss of the stove I could have sworn I heard her voice whisper, "Don't let him leave." I spun around so fast the chair toppled, slamming hard against the floor. The room stretched and twisted, the edges of reality bending under the weight of that voice. Her voice. The man didn't move. He just smiled, head tilted like a marionette waiting for its cue. "She's been lonely," he said softly. "All this time, waiting for dinner." My heart was a hammer in my throat. "You're not real," I hissed. "She's gone." He tapped the photograph, still resting between his fingers. The faces shimmered again. Me, my wife, him, and something else. A 4th shape crawling from the shadow, half-formed, smudged like wet ink. "She's not gone," he said. "You just stopped listening." The air grew thick, soupy with the smell of rain and rot. The window glass trembled, and from the reflection, her image began to move closer, as if pressing forward from the other side. I could see her hand now, the same slender hand that used to brush the back of my neck when she laughed. I backed away, but the room shrunk. Every step brought me closer to that reflection, that impossible mirror. The man stood now, his eyes burning with a light that didn't belong in any human skull. "She's been calling for you," he said, voice splitting into two tones, his and hers overlapping. "You promised you'd never eat alone again." And then I remembered. The accident, the candlelit vow I made on the night I buried her. "You'll always have a place at my table." The promise I broke. Something cold gripped my wrist. Not air, fingers. I looked down and there it was, her hand, pale and dripping, clutching me. I screamed, trying to wrench free, but she pulled and the world tilted. The reflection wasn't a reflection anymore, it was a doorway. The man's face split into a grin that cracked too wide, bones shifting beneath skin like paper. "Dinner's ready," he whispered. I fought, kicked, begged, but her strength was infinite, and her touch was gentle, almost loving, the kind of love that smothers. And as she pulled me through the glass into the cold, wet dark, I realized what she'd meant all along. I shouldn't have let him in, because he wasn't the guest. I was. The storm outside had stopped. No thunder, no rain, just silence. The kind that presses on your chest until you start to wonder if your heart's still beating. I stood there, staring at the table, steam rising from the bowls, slow and ghostly, the scent of soup filling the room again, though I hadn't turned the stove back on. My hand trembled as I reached for the ladle, still warm, still real. Somewhere in the house, a floorboard sighed, then another, like someone pacing. I turned toward the hallway, every light flickering in rhythm with my breath. The air had changed, heavier, colder, laced with something faintly familiar. Her perfume, the lilac kind she used to wear when we had guests over. And for the first time, I heard it, soft laughter drifting from the dining room. My laughter. I looked back. The photograph had changed again, subtly, cruelly. The background wasn't my kitchen anymore. It was darker, emptier, a void swallowing the edges. The man was there too, sitting where I'd been moments ago, and beside him, her. My own face grinned from behind them, a puppet in mid-smile. I stumbled backward, tripping over the fallen chair, hitting the floor hard enough to rattle the window panes. When I looked up, the table was set perfectly again, the bowls untouched, the candles burning steady. And from the shadows, a voice, not hers, not his, whispered, "Sit down." My body moved before my mind did. I crawled back to the table, sat in my chair like a child obeying a scolding parent. The photograph now lay in front of me, pulsing faintly under the candlelight. My reflection in the frame was breathing. I tried to look away, but the walls around me began to fade, melting into that same inky darkness that had pulled me through the glass. Only the table remained, anchored in an ocean of black. Across from me, her shape shimmered, not whole, but present. Her eyes met mine, and for a moment I felt peace. Then the man's voice cut through the stillness, low and final. "It's your turn to invite someone." And before I could answer, there it was. 3 slow knocks at the door. I live alone again. Or at least that's what I tell myself when the sun sinks low and the house starts to breathe. The table sits in the same place it always has, under the weak glow of the overhead light, the wood scarred with years of dinners and arguments and laughter long gone. But lately it feels like it's waiting, like they're waiting. I still cook the same soup. I still pour 1 glass of water. And yet sometimes, before I even realize what I'm doing, I set out 3 bowls. Old habits die hard, or maybe they don't die at all. The first knock always comes just as I'm sitting down, slow, deliberate, like someone remembered the rhythm of my heartbeat. Then the whisper follows, curling around my ear like a breath that doesn't belong to the living. "You invited me." Every time I promise myself I won't move. I won't answer. But curiosity, it's a dangerous thing, isn't it? Because even when you know what waits behind that door, there's a part of you that still wants to look, still wants to believe you're imagining it. Some nights I do open it, and when I do, the air smells like rain again. The porch is empty, except for a photograph. The same one, changing a little more each time. Last night, there were 4 faces. Tonight, I'm afraid to check. So if you ever hear those knocks, when the world outside feels too still and the light flickers just once before the dark, don't open it, not even to peek, because once a dinner guest crosses your threshold, they don't ever leave. They just wait for the next invitation. Anyway, that's what I tell myself, every night, right before someone knocks again. Soft pause. If you enjoyed tonight's story, don't forget to like this video. It helps more than you know, and it keeps the channel growing so I can bring you more dark tales like this one. Make sure you subscribe for daily stories, share this with someone who loves a good scare. And thank you, truly, for listening and watching. There's another story waiting for you right there on your screen. Click it if you dare. I'll see you back here tomorrow. Aurora's Children. You ever hear about places that don't exist on any map? Yeah, this is one of those stories. I was 17 that winter, just another nobody kid in the town of Aurora, Maine. A place so small, the post office doubled as a bar on Fridays. Nothing ever happened there. No murders, no miracles, no news. Just wind that howled through the spruce trees like it had something to confess, and a cold that gnawed on your bones until spring took pity. I lived with my mom in a crooked little house off Route 9. She worked nights at the diner, serving coffee to truckers who looked like ghosts in fluorescent light. I spent my time fixing old radios, the kind that still had dials, not buttons. Something about static made me feel less alone. And up on Miller Hill, that rusted radio tower loomed, a skeleton against the stars. It hadn't transmitted anything in decades, but some nights if the wind hit just right, you could hear it hum. Not loud, not music, just a low, aching note that felt like it was coming from the sky itself. They said it was nothing. Old wires, metal fatigue. But deep down, I think we all knew better, because sometimes when the hum grew louder, the lights would come. Not the soft greens and blues that ripple gentle over the north. These were red, deep liquid red, like someone had slit open the heavens and let it bleed. And when those lights rolled over Aurora, something woke up. Kids started talking in their sleep, saying things they shouldn't know. Some drew shapes in the frost on their windows, circles and spirals that burned cold to the touch. And I swear, God help me, I saw one of them smile at the sky, like it was smiling back. It began with Sarah's boy, Mikey. He'd been in a coma for 3 years after falling through the ice at Lake Baxter. The doctor said his brain was gone. Just a shell, a heartbeat on borrowed time. Then came the lights. And the next morning, Mikey was sitting at the kitchen table, eating pancakes like he'd never missed a day of his life. At first, everyone cried, laughed, thanked God, science, fate, whoever would listen. But then he looked at me across the diner that afternoon. His pupils were too wide, like black holes swallowing what little winter sun there was. And when he said, "Hi, Ethan," it wasn't just his voice. It was something deeper, layered, echoing from a place that didn't belong in any child. That's when the others came back. 4 more kids, names carved into tombstones behind the church, suddenly walking the streets again. Their parents called it a blessing. The rest of us called it wrong. The red lights started showing every night after that, brighter, closer. Sometimes they rippled across the snow, crawling down Miller Hill like veins glowing under the skin of the world. And the hum from the tower, God, that hum. It vibrated in my teeth. It made the fillings in my molars ache. Cass noticed it too. She said she could hear words inside it, soft and stretched, like someone talking underwater. Mysterized. Harlan didn't believe us until his radio scanner picked up the same frequency. Just static at first, then whispers. Not English, not anything human. That's when he said we should go. Check the tower. We packed flashlights, a crowbar, and a flask of Jack to steady our nerves. The climb up Miller Hill was silent except for the crunch of frost beneath our boots and that low, endless hum pulsing in the air. By the time we reached the base, the snow was glowing faintly red. The old metal structure loomed above us, groaning like something alive, and taped to the door of the control shed was a piece of notebook paper. Fresh ink, fresh handwriting. It said, "They're not your children anymore." Cass started crying right there, and from somewhere deep inside the tower I heard laughter. High, light, and wrong, echoing down through the wires. We climbed the ladder one rung at a time, the metal biting cold against our palms. Wind howled through the framework, shaking the tower so hard it felt like it might rip loose from the earth itself. Below us, the town was drowned in red. Houses, roads, trees, all bleeding under that unholy sky. Cass was crying again, breath fogging the air. "Ethan, we shouldn't be here," she said. But we were past that. The hum wasn't just sound anymore. It was inside us, vibrating our ribs, threading through our blood. It wanted us closer. At the top, the platform swayed under our weight. The old transmitter dish was still there, corroded, bent, but glowing softly from within. and standing in front of it was a child, or what looked like one. Its shape flickered, arms, head, hair moving like smoke underwater. Its skin wasn't skin at all, just light condensed into form, pulsing like a heartbeat. It smiled, and the tower lights dimmed as if the night itself bowed to it. Then it spoke, and the wind stopped moving. "We are the children you forgot." The words weren't sound, they were pressure. They forced tears from my eyes, made my ears ring until I thought they'd bleed. Cass dropped to her knees, hands over her head. Mr. Harlan, God bless him, tried to fight. He leveled his shotgun, shouting something I couldn't hear over the hum. But before he could fire, the child thing reached out. Light spilled from its hand, pure, red, blinding, and poured straight into him. Harlan screamed once, then he was gone. Not fallen, just unmade. The tower went dark, the hum stopped. And in that silence, I saw everything. The memories weren't mine, but they filled me, hundreds of them. Children trapped under ice, lost in the woods, vanishing in their beds. Every death Aurora had ever buried pulsed through me like electricity. The red lights weren't coming from the heavens. They were leaking out of the ground, drawn by the tower, by us. It wasn't a message. It was a beacon. And now that the tower was awake again, it wanted more. Cass grabbed my arm, eyes wide, voice trembling. "Ethan," she whispered, "it's calling your name." And she was right, because when I looked up at the shape, it was smiling just for me. The next morning, Aurora looked normal. Blue sky, frost glittering on the rooftops, the kind of morning that makes you doubt what you saw in the dark. But it wasn't right. It couldn't be. Because where Miller Hill should have been, a bare ridge cutting across the horizon, there was nothing. No tower, no debris, just smooth, untouched snow, as if the earth had healed over a wound. Cass and I stumbled back into town before sunrise, shivering and empty. We didn't speak the whole way. She kept looking behind us, like she expected the light to follow. Her lips were cracked from the cold, whispering the same words over and over. "They're still here. They're still here." The sheriff's department searched the hill that afternoon. They found Harlan's hat frozen in the snow. That was it. No footprints, no shell casings, not even the metal bolts that used to hold the tower upright. The locals decided we'd gone stir crazy. Cabin fever. Kids spinning ghost stories for attention. My mom didn't ask questions. She just looked at me like she didn't recognize me anymore. Like I was something she dreamed up and wasn't sure she wanted awake. Nights in Aurora went quiet again. The hum was gone. The red glow too. But silence can be worse than sound. You start listening for what isn't there, and that's when you hear it. The faint, rhythmic clicking in the walls. The static whispering through old radios that shouldn't even work. Cass stopped coming around, wouldn't answer calls. Her mother said she'd taken to sitting by the lake at night, talking softly to the water. Said she claimed to see faces in the ice. And me? I keep dreaming of the tower, of that voice inside my head, low and patient, like it's waiting for something. Yesterday I was walking past the old schoolyard when I saw him, Mikey. Same brown parka, same grin too wide for his face. He waved. I didn't wave back, because behind him the air shimmered, just a flicker, like heat rising off asphalt, but red. The kind of red that stains everything it touches. And for a moment, just a heartbeat, I heard the hum again. Soft, familiar, calling me home. Sometimes, when the wind comes crawling off the lake, cold enough to make your windows sigh, I still hear it. That hum. It's faint, buried beneath the sound of the trees creaking and the distant groan of ice splitting. But once you've heard it in your bones, you don't forget. It's like a second heartbeat, waiting for you to answer. Life went back to almost normal in Aurora. The lights stopped, the news forgot, and the world moved on. But I didn't. Can't. Cass was found last week, or what was left of her. They say she drowned herself in the lake, but I know better. The ice wasn't broken from the top, it was shattered from underneath. And they say she was smiling. I've tried to leave Aurora twice now. Packed my car, drove down Route 9. Both times I ended up back here, like the road looped around without me noticing. The sign still reads, "Welcome to Aurora, population 312. Same number it's been since the night the lights came. Some nights, the radios start whispering again. Static that forms words if you listen long enough. My mom's old set, the one that never worked right, turned itself on last night. A child's voice came through, humming the tune of a lullaby I swear I've never heard before, but somehow still knew. Maybe that's what they are. Not ghosts, not aliens, just echoes, pieces of what we lost, clawing their way back through the static. And sometimes, when I close my eyes, I see them standing in the snow. The children, the red glow behind their shoulders, soft as dawn. They never speak now, they just wait. I think they're patient because they know something I don't. Maybe Aurora isn't just a town. Maybe it's a door. And one day, it's gonna open again. So if you ever find yourself driving through Maine and see a sign for Aurora, keep going. Don't stop. And whatever you do, don't look up. If you enjoyed this story, hit that like button. It helps more people find our channel and keeps these stories alive. Subscribe for daily tales of the strange and the haunting, and share this one with someone who loves a good chill. Thanks for listening, for watching, for staying. There's another story waiting for you right there on your screen. I'll see you back here tomorrow night. The Engine Room. You ever work somewhere so long, you stop seeing it? That was me, 12 years in the bowels of the old Fairfield power plant. Every day smelled like hot metal and coffee gone bad. Every surface slick with a thin film of oil that never quite washed off. You tell yourself the noises are just pipes, just pressure, just the building settling. But I learned something, eventually. When a place groans like that, it's not settling, it's breathing. Fairfield's a dying mill town tucked along the Kennebec River. A place where even the ghosts seem tired. Half the shops are shuttered. The diner only serves breakfast till 9, and everyone's still nursing the same hangover from the layoffs 10 years back. The plant, the power plant, is the last thing keeping the lights on, literally and otherwise. I work nights down in the lowest part of it, a place everyone else avoids. We call it the engine room, though nobody can tell you why. It's a windowless pit of rusted turbines and ancient gauges that twitch like nervous eyes. The air hums thick with static and heat. The pipes rattle sometimes like bones in a box. My name's Dale Mercer. Divorced, 46, trying to pay off a truck I can't afford. I show up, punch in, keep my head down. My ex says that's my problem. I don't look close enough, but that's how you survive in Fairfield. You don't look close. You don't ask questions, because if you ask questions in Fairfield, you end up finding things you can't unfind. Still, something's changed. The hum's gone wrong. Too low, too alive. Sometimes when the turbines spin down and the silence settles thick as ash, I swear I can hear it. A whisper threading through the pipes, calling my name, Dale. It started one Tuesday night. The main turbine, the one that hadn't worked since the Clinton administration, started up on its own. The switchboard was dead, the breaker locked out, and yet there it was, spinning like some mechanical heart waking from a coma. The sound was wrong, too smooth, too intentional. The needles on the pressure gauges trembled, then climbed as though an unseen hand was running diagnostics. The whole room felt charged, air buzzing, lights dimming, and then came the footsteps. Metallic, slow, deliberate, coming from inside the turbine pit. I stood there, flashlight shaking, waiting for a face to appear in the shadows. Nothing, just the smell, burned hair and cold air like ozone after a lightning strike. After that night, things got weird. Tools went missing, wrenches, screwdrivers, even my thermos. The dials would reset themselves, always to the same numbers. And underneath the steady hum of the plant, there was something new, a low thudding rhythm that wasn't mechanical, a pulse. I told the foreman, Reggie, what was going on. He barked a laugh through a mouthful of dip and told me to lay off the night coffee. But I saw it in his eyes, the twitch, the little flicker of fear he didn't want me to notice. Next night, I caught two of the other guys, Lonnie and Harkins, whispering near the supply closet. When they saw me, they shut up fast, faces pale. I asked what was wrong. Lonnie just said, "Don't stay down there too long after shutdown." Then he walked off, quick. That's when I found it, the hatch. A rusted iron door half hidden behind the coolant pipes, low to the floor. I swear on my life it hadn't been there before. The metal around it looked melted, warped, like something hot had pushed its way through from the other side. From behind the hatch came a glow, red and throbbing, like the light inside a furnace. I felt it through my boots, heat pulsing, alive, timed with that deep heartbeat hum echoing through the turbines. I should have called it in. I should have left it alone, but I didn't. Because when you work somewhere long enough, the unknown starts to feel like a dare. Curiosity wins. It always does. That hatch, that red pulsing wound in the metal, might as well have been calling my name out loud. I pulled it open, and the air that spilled out was wet. Not humid, wet, like breath from a mouth that had been waiting too long to exhale. The stairwell twisted down in a slow, spiraling descent, far deeper than the plant was ever built to go. The concrete walls sweated. My boots left muddy prints on steps slick with condensation. Every few feet, a new sound joined the hum, a slow groan, a hiss, something that might have been whispering. Halfway down, the light died behind me, but the red glow below, that steady heartbeat light, drew me on. Each step felt heavier, like the air itself was thickening around me, pressing, almost guiding me. Then I saw it, an engine. At least that's the only word that fits. But it wasn't made, it was grown. Pipes curved like ribs, cables hung like arteries. The whole thing pulsed, flexing, breathing. Every piston moved in rhythm with my heartbeat, or maybe it was the other way around. In the center was a shape, human-sized, but shifting, fluid. And when it spoke, it didn't use words, it remembered them. Dale, it said. My father's voice. The same voice that taught me to turn a wrench, to keep my head down, to never ask questions. I felt my knees weaken. He'd worked here too, before the stroke took him. I'd never thought to ask what he did in those long night shifts. Now I knew. This plant didn't power Fairfield. Fairfield powered it. All those years, the blackouts, the layoffs, the disappearances everyone chalked up to drink or despair, they weren't accidents. They were offerings. The thing before me fed on us. Our lives, our grief, every swallowed scream, every quiet resignation, all siphoned, all burned for light and heat. The pipes above my head shuddered. The hum became a roar, and his voice asked, "Will you join me, son?" I looked down at my trembling hands, slick with oil and blood, and understood there was no going back. Either I shut it down, or I become part of it. I ran, didn't think, didn't breathe, just moved. Behind me, the thing, that living machine, began to howl. A sound like metal tearing through bone. The alarms came next, shrill and human, followed by the shriek of ruptured steam lines bursting open. The whole building convulsed, pipes snapping, valves screaming. The ground tilted as though the earth itself was trying to shake the power plant loose. I stumbled up the stairs, lungs burning, the red glow chasing me like firelight from a furnace that had finally learned to walk. When I burst through the service door into the freezing night, the wind hit me hard, a slap back into the world of air and stars and distance. I turned, expecting to see smoke, flames, something, but the plant just stood there, silent, almost calm. Then the lights across Fairfield flickered, every porch bulb, every street lamp. Even the sky seemed to dim. And as I stood there, heart hammering, I realized the rhythm, that flicker, matched my heartbeat, fast, erratic, like the whole damn town was breathing with me. By dawn, my hands had stopped shaking. I drove back, meaning to show someone, the foreman, the cops, anybody, the hatch, the stairwell, proof. But when I got there, the engine room was quiet. Too quiet. The walls gleamed with a new coat of paint. The floor where the hatch had been, freshly poured concrete, still damp, no sign of the door, no scorch marks, no smell. Reggie stood by the control board, sipping his coffee, eyes glazed like he hadn't slept. I asked him about the alarms, the damage, the thing. He looked right through me and said, "Everything's running normal, Dale. You probably just dreamed it, except I can still hear it. Every time the turbines spin, there's a hitch, a pause, like a breath catching in a throat. And sometimes when the floor hums beneath my boots, I feel it again. That pulse, that heartbeat, in sync with mine. I thought I escaped that night, but I think it followed me up. And somewhere deep under the plant, behind that sealed concrete floor, I swear it's still whispering my name." That was 6 months ago. Fairfield Power shut down after what they called a minor malfunction. News reports said a pressure valve failed, caused a small explosion, nothing serious. No one hurt, no one missing. They even showed Reggie on TV, smiling like he'd won the damn lottery, saying the plant would reopen once inspections are complete. But I know better. I've tried to move on, sold the truck, got a day job at the hardware store out on Route 11. People still ask me about those long nights at the plant, what it was like working down there alone. I just smile and say, quiet. But inside, I can still hear it. That hum, low and deep, crawling up from somewhere beneath the soles of my shoes. Some nights it comes through the floorboards of my apartment, faint but steady, like the pulse of something vast and patient, still waiting for me. I've started noticing things too. The way the lights in town never go fully dark, how every night around 2 a.m. they all flicker at once. And that momentary blackout, that heartbeat in the wires, it's getting faster. I think about my father sometimes, his voice calling me down those steps. Was he warning me or welcoming me home? Maybe he's still down there, part of it now, part of that living engine that feeds on us and powers what's left. And I keep wondering, if the plant shut down, what's keeping Fairfield running? What's keeping your town running? Because every place has its hum. Every power line carries a whisper. Every light bulb burns a little too warm, like something breathing just behind the glass. So tonight, when your lights flicker, even for a second, don't shrug it off. Don't tell yourself it's just the grid. Listen. Really listen. And if you hear it calling your name, don't answer. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like this video. It helps the channel grow and keeps these stories alive. Subscribe for daily narrations just like this one, and share it with someone who loves a good scare. Thanks for listening and watching. There's another story waiting for you right there on your screen. The disembarkation. Let me ask you something. Have you ever stepped off a bus or a train, looked around and thought, wait a second, something's wrong here? Not that you could see it exactly, just feel it, like the air itself was holding its breath. That's how it started for me. I was coming home to Dunbridge, a little town tucked between marshland and factory smoke, the kind of place that always smelled faintly of rain and diesel. I'd been gone 6 years, college, bad choices, and the long, lonely road that comes after both. And now I was back. It was supposed to be just a weekend, 2 nights, maybe 3. But when I stepped off the late-night Greyhound, the station was empty. No driver, no passengers, just me. And that's when I noticed there was no sound, no crickets in the grass, no wind cutting through the trees, not even the low hum of the streetlights that had always buzzed like angry hornets in summer. Just silence. Thick, heavy silence that pressed against the ears until you started to hear your own pulse. I told myself it was nothing, just small-town weirdness. Maybe I'd missed something, some festival, some blackout. Places change, people move on. But as I dragged my suitcase down Main Street, the silence followed me. Every step of my boots echoed like gunfire against the pavement, bouncing off the shop fronts that stood dark and hollow. And then, in the reflection of the barbershop window, I saw it, a figure standing across the street, still as a statue, watching. I blinked once, it was gone. I remember thinking, I just disembarked from the wrong world, but by then, it was far too late to turn back. By morning, things were stranger. The sunlight came weak through a gray sky, filtered like it had to fight its way through something thick. The town looked the same. Same diner with the flickering neon, eat, same gas station with its eternal puddles, same water tower leaning over like a tired giant. But the people, they didn't move right, didn't see me. I walked past Mrs. Greeley's porch. She used to give me lemonade and call me her little scholar. She was there now, broom in hand, sweeping a porch already spotless. I called her name. Nothing, not even a blink. Her eyes were wide and glassy like marbles half buried in dust. Inside the diner, the bell over the door jangled, too loud, and every head turned toward me in perfect unison. 12 faces, 12 blank stares, no smiles, no hellos, just silence thick enough to chew on. I stumbled back outside, the bell still echoing somewhere behind me. I tried my mom's number, dead line. Tried 911, nothing but static, the kind that seems to whisper if you listen long enough. And then, the bus. The same Greyhound from last night, parked at the station, doors open, engine silent, waiting. I stepped inside. The air smelled like cold metal and wet leather. The driver's seat was empty, but still warm when I touched it. And there it was. My suitcase, sitting exactly where I'd left it. Zipped tight, tag still attached, my name, my handwriting. I stood there staring, the realization creeping in like a shadow under the door. If my bag was still here, then what had walked home through the silent streets last night? I backed away, every instinct screaming to run, to wake up, to be somewhere else. But then, from behind me, I heard the faint hiss of brakes. The bus door slammed shut, locked. The lights flickered once, twice, and the intercom crackled to life. A voice, calm, distant, and unmistakably my own, came through the speakers. Please take your seat. The disembarkation is complete. And just like that, the bus began to move. Only this time, I wasn't sure if it was taking me home or back to where I'd never really left. Rising action, the descent into unease. By morning, things were stranger. The town looked the same. Same cracked sidewalks, same diner that smelled of grease and ghosts, same water tower with the flaking red letters. But the people moved like film projected at the wrong speed. Too slow, too smooth. And when I tried to meet their eyes, they slid past me like I wasn't there at all. Mrs. Greeley was sweeping her porch. She'd been sweeping when I walked by 10 minutes earlier. She was sweeping when I passed again. Same rhythm, same tiny pile of dust that never seemed to grow. I called her name. She didn't even flinch. Her lips twitched into something that might have been a smile, but her eyes, those were glassy, blind marbles. Inside the diner, every stool was filled. Coffee steamed on the counter. The waitress poured without spilling, over and over into cups that never emptied. I stepped in, the bell over the door shrieking like a trapped bird, and 12 heads turned toward me in perfect unison. Every single one. No one spoke. No one blinked. I left fast. Back on Main Street, I tried my mom's number again. Nothing. Tried the police. Nothing. Just that slow hiss of static that seemed to whisper words when I held the phone close enough. That's when I saw the bus. Same Greyhound, same dent in the side panel. Parked right where it had dropped me off last night. The doors hung open like a mouth waiting to swallow. I stepped up the stairs. The air smelled wrong, like rain on burnt wires, and there it was, my suitcase, still on the seat where I'd left it. My heart sank. If my bag was here, who had walked home through the silent streets? The doors slammed behind me. Metal screamed, lights flickered. The intercom popped once, then came a voice, calm, flat, eerily familiar. Please take your seat. The disembarkation is complete. It was my voice. The bus lurched forward, and through the window I saw the town peel away, like paint coming off glass until there was only fog. I think that's when I realized maybe I hadn't come home at all. Maybe I'd finally arrived. I don't even remember my feet touching the ground. Just the cold slap of air in my lungs and the pounding of my heart, desperate and wild. The streets blurred past, all gray houses and empty windows, until I reached the old place. My house, the one I grew up in. The porch steps creaked under me, same as they always had, but the sound was dull, like hearing it from underwater. I grabbed the doorknob, locked, from the inside, and then I saw movement through the kitchen window. Someone was sitting at the table. Someone was me. Same face, same clothes, same scar on the chin from that bike crash when I was 12. He was pale, still, sipping from a mug like he'd been doing it every morning since I left. Steam rose from the cup, curling lazily toward the ceiling. I pressed my face closer to the glass. The reflection looking back wasn't the one inside. It was mine. Eyes wide, terrified. Then the man in the kitchen, the other me, turned his head, slowly, smoothly, and smiled. It wasn't my smile, too stretched, too calm, like a mask made of skin. I stumbled back, tripping off the porch, breath ragged. That's when I heard the voice, low, close, and patient. Passengers shouldn't disembark between stops. I turned. The Greyhound driver stood in the road, hands clasped neatly behind his back. His uniform was spotless. His eyes, no whites, no pupils, just twin tunnels of night. You weren't supposed to get off yet, he said. We hadn't arrived. My throat tightened. What are you talking about? Who is that in there? He tilted his head, the motion mechanical, like a puppet pulled by strings. That's your arrival form, he said. You left early, broke the route. Now we have to correct it. The ground trembled beneath us. The air split with a deep metallic groan, the sound of brakes bending and breaking. The bus rolled into view, headlights bleeding white into the fog. The driver stepped closer, voice softening like a lullaby. Come now, let's get you back where you belong. Behind me, the thing in the kitchen stood up. Both of them, driver and doppelganger, waiting. I had one choice left, run from the road or face myself. Either way, there was no getting off this ride. Everything went dark. Not the kind of dark that comes from closing your eyes, but the kind that swallows up everything. Sound, air, gone. Like the world had been erased mid-sentence, and then a flicker, a hum, the low, endless drone of an engine. I opened my eyes. I was back on the bus. My same seat, my same torn ticket stub on the floor. The same fog pressing against the windows like an animal trying to get in. Only this time, I wasn't alone. Every row was filled. Men, women, children, all sitting perfectly upright, eyes fixed on the glass, not blinking, not breathing, their faces pale and waxy, as if they'd been carved to look alive. I tried to speak, to ask who they were, but my throat produced nothing, just a dry rasp swallowed by the hum of the tires. Then I noticed the windows. Outside, there wasn't a road anymore. No towns, no trees, just a swirling gray expanse, like fog and water mixed into one endless horizon. It didn't move, it didn't change. The bus wasn't driving through it, it was inside it. My pulse hammered, and then the driver's voice drifted back, calm as ever. "Almost there," he said. He caught my gaze in the rearview mirror, and for a second his face flickered, not his uniform face anymore, but mine. My eyes, my mouth, my tired expression. I looked down. My hands weren't trembling now, they were gray, blurred at the edges, like smoke trying to hold shape. I turned to the person beside me, a woman in a floral dress staring out the window. I leaned close and whispered, "Do you know where we're going?" Her lips moved barely, the faintest whisper, "Home." The word hit me like a cold knife, home. I turned back to the fog, and there it was, just barely visible through the haze, the outline of a town, my town, Dunbridge, frozen in time, colorless and still, waiting. The driver's voice came one last time, soft and final, disembarkation complete. The bus began to slow, brakes sighing like something alive, and I realized we hadn't been passengers at all, we'd been returns. Sometimes when I dream, I still feel the bus rocking beneath me. That slow, hypnotic sway, the hum of the engine that seems to come from inside my own chest, the whisper of tires against a road that might not even exist. I wake up drenched in sweat, certain I've just opened my eyes to another version of the same dream, another stretch of fog, another arrival that never quite arrives. I've stopped trying to tell the difference. Because here's the thing, when the bus stopped that final time, when the doors hissed open and the others filed out, silent and obedient, I stayed seated. I couldn't make myself move. I watched them fade into the mist, each one swallowed whole by the gray, until I was alone. Then I heard it again, that voice. Disembarkation complete. Only this time it came from the seat behind me. I turned around, slowly, afraid of what I'd see. And there I was, the same clothes, the same tired eyes. But he smiled, not wide, not monstrous like before, just sad. "You'll get used to it," he said. "Everyone does." I wanted to scream, but the sound never came. The fog pressed closer against the glass, wrapping the bus in its heavy, colorless arms. Now I sit by the window and watch the nothing roll by. Sometimes faces appear in the fog, people I once knew, people who look like they're still alive. I tap the glass, but they never look back. Maybe I died that night. Maybe Dunbridge was just the border between the world I left and the one that wouldn't let me go. Or maybe, and this is the part that keeps me up long after the engine stops, I never left the bus at all. Maybe none of us ever do. If you made it this far, thank you for listening to The Disembarkation. If that story pulled you in, hit the like button. It helps the channel grow and brings more eerie tales your way. Don't forget to subscribe for new stories every single day, and share this video with someone who loves a good shiver down their spine. There's another story waiting for you on your screen right now. Click it if you dare. And I'll see you back here tomorrow for the next ride, The Photo on the Wall. You ever walk into a room and feel like the walls are watching you? I used to think that was just a figure of speech. But in my house, my grandmother's old place out in Derry, Maine, it wasn't a figure of speech at all. It was literal. I moved in last fall, just me, a busted coffee maker, and a lifetime's worth of regret. I figured I'd fix up the place, sell it, maybe start over somewhere warmer. You know Florida, where ghosts don't belong. The house was small, creaky, and smelled faintly of mothballs and lilacs. But it had this one photo on the wall, right by the staircase, a black and white portrait of my grandmother and a man I didn't recognize. He was standing just behind her shoulder, smiling faintly. Only problem? My grandmother lived alone her whole life, and every night I could swear that man's smile got a little wider. At first I told myself it was the light, old glass, strange reflections. But the longer I stayed, the more that smile crawled under my skin, the way his eyes seemed to follow me down the hall, the way the air went still whenever I looked too long. One evening, I tried to take the photo down. The nails wouldn't budge. The wood felt warm, like skin under the frame. So I left it there, pretended it didn't bother me. But it did. Every night, I'd lie in bed and hear faint whispers, murmured conversations that stopped the moment I opened my eyes, footsteps creaking up the stairs, slow and patient, like someone who knew the house better than I did. And somewhere between sleep and waking, I'd dream of a man in black and white, standing just behind me, smiling that same faint smile, like he'd been waiting for me to come home. I told myself it was lighting, reflection, my mind playing tricks. You know how old houses are, they breathe funny at night. But then things started moving. The picture frame tilted on its own. Once I came home from work and it was lying face down on the floor. The glass wasn't cracked, but the man's face had changed. His eyes were open now, looking right at me. So I did what any sane person would do. I Googled him. Turns out there was a man named Henry Lasker who'd gone missing in Derry in 1954. Last seen near my grandmother's house. Never found. The next morning, the photo was gone. Just gone. That's when I started hearing the whispering. At first, I thought it was the wind, but the words, they were too clear. They came from inside the walls, slithering through the plaster. My name, over and over again, drawn out like a sigh. I tore the living room apart, checked under floorboards, inside vents, nothing, until I found something behind the wallpaper. A second photograph, smaller, older, curling at the edges. My grandmother again. But this time, she wasn't smiling. She looked terrified. And beside her, that same man, Henry, his hand on her shoulder, his grin almost predatory. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every creak made me flinch. I turned on all the lights, every single one. And yet, the shadows seemed thicker, heavier. I caught movement out of the corner of my eye, something darting from the hallway into the kitchen. When I followed, there was only the sound of slow, deliberate breathing. Not mine. I started drinking more coffee, keeping myself awake, telling myself I'd imagined it. But the house disagreed. I'd wake up to find chairs turned toward the staircase, the photo back on the wall where it used to hang. Same crooked tilt, same faint smile. Once, I found muddy footprints leading from the back door to the base of the stairs. Bare footprints, too big to be mine, too fresh to be old. I started thinking maybe Henry never left. Maybe my grandmother wasn't as alone as everyone thought. And maybe neither was I. That whispering came again the next night, closer this time. Clear enough to hear the words, a voice like sandpaper against bone. She said you'd come back. It happened on a stormy night, because of course it did. Thunder rattled the windows and the power went out. I grabbed a flashlight, trying to stay calm, but the air felt wrong, heavy, electric. And then I saw it. The photo had returned, hung perfectly on the wall again. Only now it wasn't black and white anymore. It was color. My grandmother's eyes were bloodshot. The man's hand was on her throat, and standing between them was me. Same clothes, same terrified face. The flashlight flickered, and I heard it, his voice right behind me, soft and close enough to feel the breath. Smile for the picture. The light died. I turned, swinging the dead flashlight like a weapon, but there was nothing. Just the dark pressing in, the smell of earth and rot thick in the air. My heart was beating so loud it drowned out the storm. Then came the sound, glass cracking. I turned back toward the wall. The frame was trembling, tiny fractures spiderwebbing across the glass, as if something behind it was trying to push through. I stumbled backward, tripping over the rug, the beam from my dying flashlight catching on the photo, and that's when I saw it move. The man's hand slid from my grandmother's throat to my shoulder. His eyes lifted, and then slowly he turned his head. He looked at me. "Get out," I whispered to no one. Maybe to myself, maybe to him, but my feet wouldn't move. The walls groaned. The whole house seemed to breathe with me, like it was alive. And underneath the thunder, I heard more voices now. Not just one, a chorus, whispering, pleading, trapped. I raised the flashlight again, shaking. "What do you want?" And then the photo ripped open. The glass shattered outward, spraying across the floor. A hand, gray, waterlogged, real, reached out from inside the frame and grabbed my wrist. I screamed, pulled back, but he was strong, impossibly strong. His nails dug into my skin. In the strobing lightning, I saw his face pushing through the torn paper, teeth bared in a smile too wide for any human mouth. "You took her house," he hissed. "Now you take her place." The world tilted, colors bled. The floor vanished beneath me, and in that last flash of light, I saw myself frozen inside the photo, screaming beside my grandmother while he smiled behind us. I woke up on the floor at dawn. The storm had passed. Everything looked normal again. The picture was gone, the whispering had stopped, and I tried to tell myself it was a dream. But when I went to the kitchen, my phone lit up with a new photo notification. No sender, no caption, just one image. Me, standing by the staircase, grinning, and behind me a faint figure, one hand on my shoulder. For a long time, I just stared at it. The morning light was spilling through the windows, dust drifting in the air like tiny ghosts. Everything was calm, too calm. I checked the wall again, bare. No nail, no frame, no mark where it had hung. I even ran my hand across the wallpaper. Smooth, clean, like it had never been there at all. But my wrist still burned where he'd grabbed me. Faint bruises, finger-shaped. I called a friend from town, Mara, a realtor who'd helped me with the paperwork when I moved in. Told her I'd had a bad night, that I might sell sooner than planned. She came by that afternoon, cheerful and oblivious. "This place is solid," she said, running her hand along the banister. "You just need a little paint and some life back in it." Then she looked up at the staircase, stopped cold. "What's this?" she asked. I followed her gaze. There, hanging neatly in its old spot, was the photo, black and white again, my grandmother, the man, and me. Mara laughed uneasily. "Wow, that's creepy." She reached out like she was going to touch it. I grabbed her wrist. Too fast, too hard. "Don't," I said. She blinked at me, startled, and I realized my hand was shaking. My throat felt dry, my pulse pounding in my ears. That night, I took the picture down myself, forced the nails out with a hammer, tore the frame apart, and burned every piece in the fireplace. The smoke rose thick and bitter. For a while, I thought it was over, until I walked past the hallway mirror. And there, reflected behind me, was a shadow, faint but smiling, one hand hovering inches from my shoulder. As the house settled and the fire died to embers, I swear I heard him whisper again, soft almost, "And don't forget to smile." I moved out the next day, didn't even bother packing, just grabbed my keys, my wallet, and drove until the house was nothing but a shrinking blur in the rearview mirror. I told myself I'd never look back, because some places, once they've seen you, they never stop watching. But leaving didn't fix it. Not really. Now every reflection feels wrong. Every camera lens catches something I can't see until later. A blur at the edge. A shadow too close. A faint smile where there shouldn't be one. It started small, little things. My phone would unlock on its own, the gallery filling with photos I never took. All the same shot. Me looking at the camera, eyes wide, smile uncertain, and behind me the faint suggestion of a hand on my shoulder. I tried changing phones, moving towns, even covering mirrors. It doesn't matter. He follows in the glass and the shine of a window, even in puddles after rain, always standing just a step behind. I've come to understand something about that night, about that photo on the wall. It wasn't cursed. It was a doorway. And when I looked long enough, when I believed long enough, I let something look back. Sometimes late at night, I swear I can hear him humming softly, like a lullaby I almost remember. My grandmother used to hum that same tune when she thought no one was listening. I don't think Henry Lasker ever wanted to hurt her. I think he just didn't want to be alone. And now, neither am I. Because here's the thing about photos. They don't just capture moments, they keep them. And sometimes, the moments don't want to let go. If you've enjoyed this story, if it made you glance over your shoulder or think twice before looking in a mirror, give this video a like. It helps the channel grow and lets me keep creating stories like this one. Make sure to subscribe for daily content, new tales, new chills, every single day. And share this video with someone who could use a little scare tonight. Thank you for listening and watching. There's another video waiting for you right now, just over there on your screen. I'll see you back here tomorrow, and until then, don't forget to smile. The silent storm. You ever hear silence so loud it starts to sound like a scream? Yeah, that's what it was like the night the storm came. I live in a little Maine town called Denton's Point. Population 2,000 and change. We've got one diner, one gas station, and a post office that still smells like dust and lost time. That's where I work. 30 years behind that counter, sorting, stamping, and watching people age through envelopes and bills. There's comfort in repetition, you know? Routine's a kind of armor against the chaos out there. I'm not a complicated man. I like my coffee black, my mornings slow, and my evenings spent listening to the sea slap the docks behind my house. Predictable, steady, boring if you asked anyone else. But I liked boring. Boring never hurt nobody. That day had been just like any other. A little drizzle, a lot of fog, the kind that blurs edges and swallows sound. But around dusk, things got strange. First, the air changed. It got thick, heavy, like the world was inhaling and forgetting how to exhale. Then the power flickered once, twice, and went out completely. No big deal, I thought. Storm season, happens every year. I lit a candle, sat in my chair, listened for the wind. But there was no wind. No rain, no thunder, just silence. And in that silence, I swear I heard something moving. Not out closer, inside the walls. A faint hum, like electricity crawling under the skin of the house. I told myself it was nothing. Old wood, bad wiring, imagination running wild. But as I sat there, staring into that candle flame, I felt something watching me. Not from the darkness beyond the windows, but from inside the quiet itself. And that's when the storm began, without a sound. It started small, a neighbor's lights flickering in the distance, a low hum slithering through the power lines. My old mail truck coughing once, twice, and dying in the middle of Main Street. When I tried the key again, nothing, not even a click, just silence, thick and waiting. Then came the people. At first, it was little things, blank stares, murmured half sentences that trailed off mid-thought. They'd stop mid-step, heads tilted, eyes darting to something I couldn't see. Mrs. Daly, God bless her, stood outside the post office one morning, clutching her grocery bag, whispering to the air like it was whispering back. By the third day, Denton's Point wasn't a town anymore. It was a photograph, still empty, the color drained out of it. No car engines, no birds, no ocean. Even the waves had stopped moving. The silence pressed down so hard it felt like it might split my skull open just to escape. I packed a bag, tried to drive out. Every road was blocked. Fallen trees, wires tangled like spider silk. The highway out of town looped back on itself somehow, like the world was folding in around Denton's Point. That's when I found the letters. Hundreds of them stacked in the mailroom. Same envelopes, same handwriting, mine, except I hadn't written a damn one of them. Each addressed to someone in town, each sealed tight, edges warm to the touch, like skin. When I pressed one to my ear, I heard that same hum, the same one in the wires in the walls. I tore one open. Inside, no paper, no words, just a thin sheet of glass, clear as water. And beneath it, movement, like mist swirling under ice. When I tilted it toward the light, the mist shaped itself. Faces blurred, screaming without sound. I dropped it. It cracked. The hum stopped. For a second, I thought it was over. Then, from outside, I heard footsteps, slow, dragging, coming up the post office steps. I peeked through the blinds. It was Mrs. Daly. Only her eyes weren't her eyes anymore. They were white, blank, glowing faintly in the dark. And when she opened her mouth, no sound came out. Just that same silent scream I'd heard in my head the night the storm began. Something was calling them. And now I think it had started calling me. I opened one. I shouldn't have, but curiosity, it's a killer, right? Inside, a single slip of paper, thin, trembling like it was breathing. On it, 7 words scrawled in shaky black ink, "Do not break the silence." That's when I heard it again, the whisper. Not from outside this time, but inside me. A slithering sound, wet and cold, curling through my veins, humming behind my eyes. It didn't speak in language, not exactly. It remembered me, knew my name, knew the rhythm of my heartbeat and the flavor of my fear. The silence wasn't empty, it was alive, feeding. The letters on the floor began to shake, hundreds of them, rattling like teeth in a skull. One by one, they split open, glass sheets rising out of the envelopes like breath on a cold night. And within each one, faces. Friends, neighbors, every soul in Denton's Point, pressed flat and whispering in that impossible quiet. I stumbled out into the street. The air felt wrong, too thick, too bright. Lightning cracked across the clouds, but again, no thunder, just that endless hum. The town was glowing faintly now, every window pulsing with light from nowhere. And then the voice spoke again, everywhere at once, inside the walls, the ground, my bones. One word, it said. Speak one word, and it ends. It was begging me, promising release, promising silence would let go if I just let it out. I wanted to. God help me, I wanted to. But then I saw them, the people, or what was left of them, standing in the street, mouths open, waiting. their faces blank like mirrors turned toward me. I realized what it wanted. The silence didn't want to end. It wanted to spread, and it needed a voice to do it. My voice. So I closed my mouth, bit my tongue until I tasted blood. My scream clawed at my throat, but I held it there, burning, tearing, trying to escape. The world trembled. The storm screamed without sound, and I screamed back, on the inside. Because if I spoke, if I broke the silence, there wouldn't be a world left to hear me. When I woke up, the storm was gone. No thunder, no wind, no light, just the pale, washed-out mourning of a world that had held its breath too long. The sky was clean, too clean, empty as a sheet of paper before the first word stains it. The air smelled like rain that never fell, a promise broken by something older than weather. I stumbled outside. My knees gave out halfway down the steps. The town was still there. Every street, every mailbox, every peeling paint job, but it was wrong. Denton's Point looked, paused. Doors hung open. Meals sat on tables, half-eaten. A cup of coffee steamed faintly beside an empty chair. The diner's jukebox light blinked, but no song played. And there were no people, not one. The silence hadn't left with the storm. It was the storm. It had soaked into everything, into the wood, the walls, even the light. Every sound I made died too soon, swallowed by something invisible and patient. I walked through town calling names just to hear something human. My voice barely carried, like the air was too thick to move. I checked every house, every alley. The faces from the letters haunted me, their eyes trapped in that whispering mist. Maybe this was what was left of them. Maybe I was all that was left of us. I made it back to the post office by dusk. The letters were gone, every last one. Only the faint scorch marks on the floor remained, shaped like the outline of hands. Dozens of them, reaching up. Sometimes late at night, I still hear the hum. It's faint, almost kind. It moves through the walls like water, finds the cracks in the floorboards, curls beneath my skin. I don't sleep much anymore. Not because I'm afraid of the silence, no, I'm afraid of what comes after. Because lately when I listen close, I hear something new. Not the hum, not the whisper, something like a voice. And it's mine, only it's still screaming. I've been writing letters again. At first, I told myself it was just to keep my hands busy, to keep the silence from swallowing me whole. But lately, the letters write themselves. I wake up to find them stacked neat and perfect on my desk, ink still wet, my name signed at the bottom like a confession. I don't remember what I write. I don't remember who they're for. Sometimes I think I hear scratching, paper folding itself into shape, pen moving without me. And when I pick one up, it hums, soft and low, like it's waiting to be opened. I burned the first batch, every last one. The smoke was pale and silent, like the sky the morning after the storm. But by morning, more letters had appeared, twice as many, my name written on all of them. It's strange. There's no fear anymore, only this calm deep as the sea after a wreck. I think that's what the silence wanted all along. Not to destroy, not to scream, just to belong. And maybe I belong to it now. If you're hearing this, if this story somehow found its way to you, don't come looking for Denton's Point. There's nothing left to find. The roads don't lead here anymore. But if by some chance a letter arrives with your name on it, handwritten, trembling, humming softly in your hands, don't open it. Don't even touch it. Because the storm isn't over. It's just, and maybe it doesn't need thunder to be heard anymore. Maybe all it needs is you. A long pause. A faint, almost imperceptible hum builds under the silence. If you've made it this far, thanks for listening to The Silent Storm. If you felt the chill, if the story stayed with you, go ahead and like this video to help it reach more people who love a good scare. Subscribe for daily stories that creep under your skin, and share this one with someone you think might dare to listen. I appreciate you being here in the dark with me. There's another story waiting for you on your screen right now. Go ahead, click it if you're brave enough. Until tomorrow, keep your lights low, and whatever you do, don't break the silence. The Last Cruise. You ever notice how vacations can feel like borrowed time? Like you're not supposed to be that happy for that long? That's how it felt the day we boarded the Ocean Spirit, a cruise liner so big it looked more like a floating city than a ship. My wife Marcy called it our last hurrah before settling down, our first real trip in years. We were just ordinary people trying to remember how to have fun again. We left out of Portland, headed north toward Alaska. The kind of trip where you watch whales breach in the fog and pretend the world still makes sense. But the thing about the ocean, it's patient, it waits, and it remembers. The first night, something felt off. The air inside the ship had this low hum, not mechanical, not human, like something breathing just under the hull. I told myself it was nerves, or maybe the sea playing tricks on me. I wish that had been true. The second morning, we woke to gray light leaking through the curtains and the sound of gulls screaming. Breakfast in the grand hall tasted of salt and champagne, laughter bouncing off crystal chandeliers, faces glowing with the kind of joy people only wear when they're pretending not to age. But near the end of the table sat a man who didn't laugh, didn't eat, just stared at the window, eyes fixed on the shifting water as if it were whispering his name. When I caught his reflection in the glass, I swear I saw him mouthing something. One word, over and over, down. Marcy told me to stop staring, said it was just the sea getting to people. But that night, as we drifted through the mist and the ship's lights flickered across the waves, I heard it again. That same low hum, closer now, and beneath it something knocking, from the other side of the hull. By the third day, the ocean had swallowed the horizon. The fog grew thick as wool. Even the captain's announcements, those cheerful updates about another fine day at sea, sounded strained, too forced, too rehearsed. Marcy tried to keep busy, yoga, cocktails, the endless buffets. But every time I passed the observation deck, I saw that same man sitting in the same place. Only now there were two others beside him, silent, watching the water. That night, the ship shuddered. Not a wave, something else. Something heavy brushing against us. Plates slid off tables, the lights dimmed to black. And in that silence, we heard it again, a long, dragging sound, like chains being pulled across metal. The hum was no longer under the ship, it was inside it. When the lights returned, half the dining room was empty. Crew members hurried down hallways, whispering into radios that no longer worked. Marcy wanted to go to our cabin, lock the door, wait it out. But I couldn't shake the feeling that we were already too late for that. Because when I looked down through the glass floor of the atrium, the one that gave a view of the lower decks, I saw something moving in the shadows below. Something pressing upward. And for a heartbeat, I thought I saw faces, pale and distorted, like they'd been floating there forever, waiting for someone to listen. That was the moment I realized the ocean spirit wasn't just a ship, it was a tune. And it had finally decided to wake up. The alarm started around midnight, a voice over the intercom breaking up with all passengers, please remain calm. Then, nothing but the hum. Cabin doors slammed. Footsteps thundered through the corridors. Somewhere below us, metal screamed as if the ocean itself were tearing through the hull. Marcy's hand clutched mine so tight I felt her nails draw blood. What's happening? She whispered. And before I could answer, we heard a splash, heavy and final, from the deck above. When we looked up through the glass, there was no one left on the balconies, only the sea rising higher than it should, pressing against the windows like a living thing. Then the power died. The hum became a roar. In the dark, I finally understood what that man at the window had been saying. Down. Because the ocean wasn't calling to us, it was calling us back. Even now, when I close my eyes, I can still feel the ship moving, somewhere deep below, far from light or air or memory. They call it the last cruise, a story whispered in ports, a warning told to anyone who dares to chase paradise across the northern sea. They say the ocean spirit still sails, no crew, no passengers, just that endless hum echoing across the waves. And sometimes on the foggiest nights when the water goes still and the gulls refuse to cry, you can hear it too. That sound beneath the world, that ancient, patient heartbeat waiting for you. It started small, cabin doors opening in the middle of the night, hallway lights flickering even when the power was fine, a smell, briny, metallic, like old blood in salt water. And then the passengers began disappearing. The staff said nothing. The captain, this stiff old man with gray eyes, kept assuring us everything was under control. But every night the dining hall got emptier. Marcy said I was imagining things, that people just stayed in their rooms, but she stopped saying that after she found the lifeboats. Empty, all of them. No alarms, no splashes, no signs anyone had used them. That's when I found the journal. hidden in the captain's quarters, wedged behind a panel near the helm. It was dated 30 years ago, written by a crewman named Ellis. He said the ship had been lost once before, vanished mid-route, everyone gone. Then it just showed up again, no one on board. They scrubbed it down, renamed it, and sent it sailing again. And I realized we weren't passengers, we were replacements. The next day, the ocean changed color. Not blue, not green. Something darker, like ink poured into water. The sky bled red at the edges, a sunrise that never quite arrived. People were starting to lose it. A woman screamed in the lobby, claiming she saw her husband's reflection wave to her from the water, even though he'd been missing for 2 days. Marcy wanted to believe there was still a rational explanation. Ships lose people, she said, hands trembling around her coffee. It happens. But she didn't look at me when she said it. The hum beneath the hull grew louder, pulsing like a heartbeat in the floor. Sometimes, when I pressed my ear to the wall, I swore I could hear voices behind it, whispering, chanting, a rhythm like the tide. The captain locked himself in the bridge. Crew members began to vanish too. The ship's PA system kept crackling to life. Random words, snatches of breath, someone sobbing before the static swallowed it again. By nightfall, the Ocean Spirit wasn't sailing anymore. It was drifting. The engines had stopped, but somehow the ship kept moving. Slowly, steadily, toward a patch of sea that wasn't on any map. Marcy clutched my arm, eyes wide. "Where are we going?" she asked. And for the first time, I didn't have to wonder, because I could see it now. A faint light under the water, moving with us, waiting for us. And with every passing hour, it was getting closer. The night the storm hit, the sea looked black, not from clouds, but from movement, like something vast was rolling just beneath the surface, circling, waiting for its cue. The wind howled through the ship's corridors like it had a voice of its own. Doors slammed open, lights exploded, and alarms wailed, though no one was left to answer them. I ran through the chaos, shouting Marcy's name, my breath tasting of rust and fear. When I burst onto the main deck, the rain hit like needles. Passengers were screaming, slipping across the slick wood as the ship pitched hard to one side. Lightning flashed, and for an instant the world froze. That's when I saw them, figures in the fog. Not crew, not passengers. They looked like they'd been pulled from the sea, skin gray and peeling, seaweed tangled in their hair, eyes glowing faintly like bioluminescent fish. They moved slowly, almost reverently, climbing the rails and stepping onto the deck as though returning home. And then one of them looked straight at me. Its mouth never moved, but I heard it, inside my skull, where thoughts are supposed to live. Open quote, "You're home now." Close quote. The storm screamed louder. The deck split open with a deep groan. I grabbed Marcy's hand, pulling her toward the lifeboats, though I already knew what we'd find. There were no lifeboats, only ropes hanging loose, swaying over the edge. I forced myself to look down. The sea below wasn't water anymore, it was faces. Thousands of them, undulating beneath the surface like a single living mass. Eyes open, mouths moving in unison, whispering in a voice that sounded like the hum that had haunted us from the first night. Open quote, "Down, down." Close quote. Marcy stumbled, her hand slipping from mine as the deck heaved again. I caught her wrist, but the ship lurched, metal shrieking, glass shattering. Rain poured over us like the ocean itself had cracked open. She looked at me then, calm somehow, her hair plastered to her face. Open quote, "It won't let us go," she said. Close quote. And she smiled, not out of madness, but recognition. Then the deck gave way. I remember her hand, slick cold, sliding out of mine, her scream swallowed by the sea of faces below. And in that moment, I understood. The ship hadn't been cursed. It had been hungry. When I woke up, the sea was calm. Too calm. The kind of calm that feels manufactured, like a stage reset between acts. The ship, brand new again. Not a splinter out of place. Deck polished, brass gleaming. The air sweet and clean, carrying no scent of salt, no hint of storm. For a moment, I thought I dreamed it all. The storm, the faces, Marcy's hand slipping from mine. But dreams don't leave bruises. My wrists still ached. My clothes were dry, though I remembered drowning. I walked the halls. The laughter hit first, light, careless, beautiful. Passengers filled the lounge again, glasses clinking, music swelling from unseen speakers. A bartender smiled as he poured champagne into tall flutes. The same smile I'd seen the first night. Only now I noticed something behind it, something hollow. I called Marcy's name, my voice echoing through the atrium. No one looked up. I moved from deck to deck, the dining hall, the pools, or the observation deck. Every face bright and blank, every gesture looping perfectly, endlessly. Then I saw her. She was sitting near the window, hair shining in the sunlight, her dress the same pale blue she'd worn that first night. For a heartbeat, my heart almost started again. I ran to her, touched her shoulder, but when she turned, her eyes were empty glass. No warmth, no recognition. She smiled that slow, rehearsed smile and whispered the same two words I'd heard before everything went black. Open quote, welcome aboard, close quote. I stumbled back, heart hammering, but no one noticed. The music swelled again, the ship's engines thrummed, and the horizon rolled endlessly ahead, an ocean without end. I passed a mirror near the bar and froze. The man looking back wasn't me. His skin had that same gray pallor. His pupils shimmered faintly like light trapped beneath water. And when I opened my mouth to scream, the reflection only smiled. That's when it hit me. I was part of it now. Another ghost in the cruise line's endless performance. Every evening when new passengers board, I feel that same smile crawl across my face, automatic, rehearsed, as I greet them at the rail. Welcome aboard the Ocean Spirit, I hear myself say. And somewhere deep beneath us, the hum starts again. Waiting. They call it the Ocean Spirit, but that's not its name. Names have power, and whatever this ship truly is, it lost its name a long time ago. Maybe when the first storm took it under. Maybe when the first soul decided to come back up with it. Now it drifts in and out of the fog, wearing a new coat of paint, a new registry, a new promise of luxury. Always the same route, always the same fate. I've stopped fighting the routine. There's no point. The laughter, the champagne, the sunset photos, they all happen like clockwork. Even the disappearances follow their pattern. Sometimes I still find her, Marcy, sitting by the window, staring out at a sea that isn't really there. We don't talk anymore. We just sit, side by side, pretending this is what eternity feels like. But late at night, when the ship goes quiet and the fog presses against the glass, I remember the truth, the faces in the water, the hum beneath the hull, the endless hunger of the deep. And I wonder if somewhere, the real me, the man who once boarded this ship with hope in his chest and a ticket in his hand, is still screaming underwater, still trying to swim toward the light. Sometimes I think I hear him. Other nights, I don't. So if you ever get one of those glossy emails or ads that sound too good to be true, 7 nights, all inclusive, no record of the company, do yourself a favor, don't go, because some vacations never end. And some ships don't carry passengers, they collect them. And if you listen closely, on the calmest nights at sea, when the fog is thick and the horizon vanishes, you might hear a faint hum drifting across the waves. That's not the wind, that's us, still sailing. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like this video. It really helps the channel grow and makes it easier for new listeners to find us. Subscribe for daily stories just like this one, and share it with someone who loves a good scare. Thank you for listening and for watching. There's another story waiting for you on your screen right now. Click it if you dare, and I'll see you back here tomorrow.